Hello everybody, I'm Den Haring and welcome back to my channel, Fish Den 365. It's good to be back. Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to Topwater Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking about the Berkley Frenzy Popper. So I'm not sure what year this one came out. It's been probably close to 20 years since this thing's been around. It's hard to believe it's been around that long. It's out of production now. I don't think Berkley makes this popper anymore, but this is a really good popper, and it's something that I've been holding off talking about because I don't think it's available anymore, but I'm pretty sure you can still get these things on eBay for a decent price. When they were around in the early 2000s, they were a very cheap bait. They did not cost very much, but they do everything they need to do to be a good popper. Here's a couple. I like this particular color scheme the best. It's got a black back, white belly, bluish sides, shad alewife color. In my area, this is one of the forage bases for a lot of the fish in the area, lakes and rivers that I fish. And this popper, it always impressed me with how it fishes. You can see the cupped mouth here. It's kind of a smaller mouth. The neat thing about this Berkley Frenzy is how many ways you can work it. If you give a rather hard twitch to the end of your rod, this would spit a lot of water forward. It had a really good, you didn't have to, I never modified these mouths on this bait at all. It would spit really nicely, just the way it is. And you could work it along really fast, spitting it along like that. That was one good way to work this bait. And another good way that I liked working the bait was just a lighter twitch, and you could actually walk the dog with it. It would spit a little bit, but it would walk as well. And so I'm glad I still have a couple of these left because they have pretty nice eyes in them. Hopefully you can see the eye. There's some really good for the amount of money. These things were like $3 back in the day. It is crazy cheap, and yet they did a good job at catching fish. Pretty good finish, interesting shape, a little bit more of that wider shad profile shape. But more importantly, they worked really well on the water, and they were really easy to work by using your rod tip. Again, I would always use a topwater rod for this bait. For me, it was a Daiwa Light and Tough Series topwater rod. I like to fish braided line 20-pound test with a mono leader of about anywhere from 12 to 17-pound test. And that leader would usually be a rod length or two long. And that's how I'd fish this particular popper. And just looking at it now makes me want to start fishing it again, because we're now at the time of the year where poppers, I think, they're one of the last top waters that still catch fish effectively. What I mean by that is when the water starts getting cold and dropping down into the low 60s and then high 50s and mid 50s, the topwater bite begins to start fading. It doesn't mean you can't catch them on top, especially if you have several sunny, warm days in a row. But it does start to fade, and part of the reason for that is, everything's slowing down. The bait fish are moving a little slower now. They're not as actively moving around, and so I found personally that in October and even in November, beginning of November, a popper like this one could be a really good topwater bait because you can work it slowly. You can just leave it out there, bloop it a few times, or maybe walk it a few times and just let it sit. And the letting it sit is the important part. Actually, the thing that I found that works best with these, and even with the walk the dog baits, is to work them more subtly. You don't give them a lot of action, just a little tiny spinning instead of a big bloop, and then just letting it sit there. And slight movements of the bait tend to catch more fish this time of year when the water's cold. So this is a great time of year to be fishing these poppers when that water's cooling down in the lower 60s and high 50s. I like to do research when I'm preparing these topwater videos, and one of the things I was curious about was when this popper was readily available, how did it rank among other poppers? Did it get good reviews? And I found an article from 2009 time frame that it was written, it showed up on the Major League Fishing website. It was written July 2009 by Jason Seelock, where he was ranking a number of different poppers, and the Berkley Frenzy actually ranked number one. The criteria was the price of the bait, the colors and sizes that were available, the design of the bait, the design and finish of the bait, how it splashed, how it worked in the water, and how fast you can work it. And the Berkley, this Berkley Frenzy Popper scored 8.67 out of 10. The next highest one was the Rebel Popper R, which was an 8.33, and there were several that tied that. A little further down on the list was the Storm Chug Bug. I may do an upcoming video on this bait on an upcoming Topwater Tuesday. If you have an interest in that, let me know, and I can make that happen. Also, I'd really like to know if you have experience fishing the Berkley Frenzy Popper. If you do, please comment. That's it for this Topwater Tuesday. Be safe out there. Hope to see you on the water, and may God bless your fishing endeavors.